Hello folks, boatboo.com here, and today I'd like to talk about decks for modern that you can play. I'm gonna go through some decks that are very representative and very descriptive for modern, but today I want to talk more about some spicy decks. Something that will go outside of the box, something that can surprise the meta game and will actually be well timed. We have few generalist options. Aggro decks probably gonna be good. Control decks probably gonna be good, and they would be clashing between each other. Some combo decks will try to slicing in between, and if that is taken into the picture, we can consider some mid-range decks as well to try to capitalize on the full range. But there are some decks that are sort of neither of them, one of which is this almost mono-white prison deck that you start seeing on your screen right now. It's actually pretty good against aggro. It's pretty good against mid-range because those creatures still have to attack and they rely a lot on removal, and this deck doesn't really give you targets for that. And against control, okay, you may sometimes struggle, but you have this sort of inevitability because your deck is so sort of streamlined. It's doing one thing, it doesn't really have very weird cards in it, although the builds I saw for this deck that I'm gonna show you have some questionable cards that I'm not really super excited about, but let's see. Basically, what I don't exactly like here, but most of the players who run this deck based around Enduring Ideal really do like, this is the namesake card. Basically, you cast this on 7 and then you pull an enchantment out of your deck every turn, basically. And you have an assortment of them. So this enchantment, I don't really agree. It protects all of your other enchantments. That's cool, but I don't necessarily wish to waste a slot on such a card, which is pretty bad top deck, to be fair. Basically, you have enchantments for all sort of cases. You have Oblivion Rings, Banishing Lights, and such to deal with problematic permanents. You have Runic Halo for specific cards. You have Suppression Field, suppressing all the activated abilities. Leyline helps you not die against burn and such. Notes, it's some creatures every turn while it's in play, and Prison makes it hard for them to attack you. Then you can always just play Nevermore. It's your kind of Ruined Hallow number 4, sort of. It just does something more specific, unlike Ideal, so it's just a good one for Ideal. Then Peace of Mind is just enchantment that also helps you stabilize and not die super quickly. You just discard extra cards, gain some life. And then Unlife serves a similar purpose. I'm not sure if you want this card in your main deck, but what I like about it is that it's a good card game 1 against decks like Escape, Shifted Nauseum, Storm, things like that. So if they have a combo kill turn and then they don't realize you have this in play, well, you just bought yourself a turn and they have to start all over again, so they basically have to deal with this before they go off. Brain to Light Scapeship decks, which are actually not gonna be very good, I think, in the new metagame, can just bounce it with cryptic commands, so watch out for that. Then how you win, you basically use the Starfield of Nyx. You animate all your enchantment and they start bashing face, and then the added bonus is to recure some of your enchantments. Then your other big win condition is Form of a Dragon. You just pull this out with the ideal, and then your life total resets at 5 every turn, and you deal 5 every turn somewhere. So, and also creatures without flying can attack you. So it's a super cool card in this deck. Step allows you to charge up some mana. Unit filters to be able to cast the form of a dragon sometimes manually. Also because you could sometimes draw like 1 or 2 Nykthos, so filters help there. Nistful Plains ensures that you never deck out, and you always can reuse the cards that die and search them again with the ideal. So for example, if they break your 1 of Nevermore and you still want to keep them shut off of a specific card, and you already played ideal, so you just shuffle that Nevermore back into your deck and search it again. Then Manlands, just because why not? Extra fixing, extra win condition basically. Temples are very good in this deck, that's for sure. Ghost Quarter is a fine one-off because you have very minor red splash and you don't mind like running one-off as a utility. Perhaps the best creature removal in white, and then of course ideals. I like the Cybirds for this build. And Crumble to Dust for all the Tron decks and such, and Scape Shifts maybe. Archangel of Fives is actually interesting here. Not just fine, because provides a body. In some matchups I think it's safe to bring in some creatures. Against green-white hate bears, you're more than happy to bring this in. They only have like 4 paps or something to deal with this thing. So Archangel could be kind of fun. I think this build should utilize more Stony Silence, even though you have tutor package with ideal, but 1 might not be enough. Rule of Law against combo decks, so it's like Eidolon of Rhetoric, and Sphere of Safety. I believe this build doesn't run any main deck. No. Which is also another weird point of this build, but overall I like it. Despite that, extra Blooming Rain for permanents, extra Nevermore for combos, so Sphere was for aggro decks, extra Leyline, the build runs 3 and 1 split, couple Rest in Peace for all the graveyard shenanigans of course, and Dovescape for control. Because let's say they play something crazy. It's also fine against combo decks. They play some good non-creature spell, they get a bunch of 1/1s, but it doesn't matter because they can never basically attack because of all the prison effects. So that's how you sort of prevent yourself from a bunch of crazy non-creature spells. Let's say like Cruel Ultimatum, for instance. Okay, that's another version. So things you can basically try out in this deck. Things tutelage, but I don't think you really need it, but you could try. Don't have enough experience of like playing against this deck, so to figure out whether tutelage is good on this deck or not. I don't particularly like it. Then Assemble the Legion is cute, it's a fun win condition, but if I would run it, I would run maybe like just 1. And I don't think it's actually that good because everybody's gunning against tokens and 1/1s because of the top tier package, so not a great thing right now. Blood Moon on the other hand is a good approach. It doesn't hurt you that much, but in certain matchups it can be brutal. We know it can be very brutal. This version has full set of spheres, a safety, which is kinda nice, and I feel like the other version should have run like 1 or 2 in the main deck. 4 maybe is too much, but it makes sure that aggressive deck's not gonna get you. Detention Sphere is another good reason to splash blue, but it's not like absurdly better against compared to Oblivion Rings and Banishing Lights. The only good upside for it right now is because it gets rid of all the top tier tokens, for example. So that's the only like big point I could think of right now, really. And then it's basically the same package, except another card that I do like in this deck is Heliod. Opponents can exile it with Path if it gets online, and it will get online, but it's another nice win condition. But because so many decks, so many control decks will go up right now, so that means probably the amount of Path to Exiles might go up, though with Eldrazi Winter probably it was one of the highest counts for Path to Exile, and Path to Exile was super good. Right now, actually right now it's probably gonna be less good because of the top tier tokens, and then Control really not having all the time good targets for Paths. So yeah, Heliod might be actually better right now, the more I think of it. And then sideboards, so very basic, except that there is another enchantment you could run. Probably not main deck, but I do find it fine in the sideboard for extra life gain and like extra resilience against aggros to Nyxlis Rams, like nice 0/5 that gains some life sometime, and its enchantment as well. So there you have the prison decks. Now let's go to all different flavors of Jeskai. This is a control-ish version I found that I liked. Basically, your basic juice in terms of spells, but because this is a control version, we have Verdict main deck, and then we have Visions main deck for extra draw, and Snaps and the Click, and Ajani. So this is the start for the Jeskai control. This is how you probably build it, because you have Vision, you don't need Revelation anymore, really. It just comes out cheaper, but everything else is very basic. Some numbers could be tweaked to squeezing some spicy cards, but this is basically how you build it. Don't forget your Colonnades and Lighthouse. And then for sideboard, well, there are a bunch of things you could run, but important to notice here is that I think actually Staticaster is going to become better, because at least some decks will try the top tier combo, and this is a very clean answer to all of that every single turn, unless they kill this thing. So that's really cool. And because a bunch of control in the meta game, or at least for some time, Keranos is good, and Jace actually becomes much better. I mean, the Architect of Thought, because it just negates the top attacks from the top tiers and the like. So that's an interesting thing. Your relics, your Stony Silence, you don't run. Rest in peace, because you have Snapcasters, Crumbles, Timely, extra Verdicts, a Vertier, a Purge, and some extra counter spells. Very basic deck, very safe deck choice, I think, but you gotta play it fast. Oh, you gotta play that fast. And because some people might be lured to this deck, but they don't have enough experience with such decks, then you might actually want something a bit faster. And what I mean is that something like this. So you have your usual jazz with the spells, but then your creatures are a little bit more interesting. So you have less control and less of juice in terms of spells, but then you have this Resto Kiki combo, and basically, if you don't feel comfortable with the super control build, if you feel like you're not going to be able to pilot it super well, you could do this. You could play a flash version of Jeskai and have this fast combo to actually win on time, which I think is going to be very crucial for a lot of big modern tournaments, just to make sure that you're not going to have unintentional draws with blue decks. That's very important. So let's look at a spicier one. If you want to really like have a bit more fun but also have a potent deck, you could jam in the top tier combo into Jeskai, and then okay, you have visions and both visions to dig for the combo, Snapcaster to flashback your other juice, then like Dark Dwellers casually flashback in visions, and then yeah, you have your usual jazz, plus you have Muddled Mixture as a spare counterspell that also fetches the combo. But this deck is kinda clunky, kinda maybe a little bit too cute, but if your goal is to have just more fun than normally, just goofing around, then like you could try this version of Jeskai. Then this version of Jeskai is even more spicier, and I recommend it only for bigger trolls. So it's your Jeskai control tempo whatever that just jams in this Shape Anew package. What this does is that you sacrifice an artifact, well, the control of target artifact, but it's most of the time going to be you. You sacrifice an artifact, pretty much most of the time a token or something not so relevant, and then you flip cards from your top deck, right? And then you get the first artifact into play. So how to make it work? Well, you just run Engineers and Nolar. So once you sacrifice the top tier, the only thing that can be hit by Shape Anew is the Blasto Colossus, and this is your main win condition. Everything else is just to support it or to provide a backup. Also, you get this thing, Master Skull, 3 mana instants, put 2 1/1 Carless Mirrors, which are artifacts as well for Shape Anew. Not really liking this card super much, but it provides flashable tokens, so charm blockers, etc. It can be flashbacked with Snapcaster, so probably it's not that bad. It's probably the best card you can think of, because Pian Kiran, even though it's much better as a card, but it's legendary, so you don't want to just outright play 4. And then this list I found has interesting sideboard, so a lot of hate for all different situations. Also emphasizing Staticaster, Jace is cool, Elspeth, a card that I grew really impressed about in a lot of Jeskai control-ish lists. And this is just a spare win condition if you feel like you're gonna play against a lot of graveyard hate, for example. Okay, and now let's review some of the things from Magic Online. So just list that caught my eye. Basically a Myth Realized deck that also plays Mentor, that also plays this weird thing. So it's a 2 mana 1/1 flying, and then when you cast a bunch of spells in a turn, you need 4 plus, then you can actually flip this thing, and it becomes a legendary enchantment that says first spell each turn from your opponent, I think, is countered. Counter the first spell played by each opponent. Yeah, each turn, right. By the way, I just didn't realize, I don't know if that's like just for fun or something, but never realized that this picture to the right of you, it looks like Olivia Wilde. That's kind of weird. Like, is this actually the art of the card? If it is, then it's kind of funny. This is okay. Well, whatever. Let's go back on track. You have a bunch of cheap spells in this deck. You have Cut Shots, you have Mishra's Bubbles to trigger Mentor and Myth and Rayo. They're content for extra draw. You have a bunch of cheap spells, so you're not gonna take too much damage. Snapcasters to flashback stuff. You have Probes, Visions, Dismember, Monomorphose, Manslaughter Pact. So the deck looks really sweet. Let's just say it doesn't seem to be super competitive, but the guy went 5-0 in Modern League on Magic Online on the 7th or 6th. So Yeah, Dex looks great. The sideboard is kind of tricky, but it has a lot of good hate cards. Twisted Image probably for things like Spellskite, perhaps. I don't know. Paths, Galactics for control and combo. Extra Slaughter Pact, Ley Lines for discard and burn and so on, and rest in peace. So, yeah, you could work on the sideboard. I don't think it's perfect. I think it's very good, but you can customize it a lot. Okay, other decks. Really do like the Emissary Bushwhacker deck. Basically, it's an Atarka kind of burn deck from different perspective. It's kind of like a Naya Zoo with a little bit of twist. So you have Bushwhacker to spice everything up, and then you have usual beat down cheap guys like Nekatl, Tarmogoyf, Kirdapes, Goblin Guide, Experiment 1, and Emissary, so all of them. And then you have just the essentials in burn and removal, paths, bolts, commands, for extra burst, and summons are pretty good and with Bushwhackers, but you only play one of them because it's a very tricky card. And a Fork Bolt, like, cause why not? Just get them tokens and stuff. Cyber is pretty funky. It's pretty interesting to see Unlife here and Talia, for example. So this is pretty darn interesting. Okay, so a few more decks left. So this is how normal Junt would look like, just your usual discard spells, but you gain Painful Truths from the Oath. Then Dark Dwellers are also pretty fun, though there are no bow with Painful Truths, but I guess you can live with that because you have only 2 truths and only 1 Dark Dwellers, only 1 Liliana, which I'm not sure I really like. Especially in the new metagame where you can probably expect a lot of control, and Liliana is really good against those. Yeah, your removal suit is pretty standard and nothing particularly insane for the sideboard. I like the Return of Olivia to the sideboard, that's pretty spicy. P and Kieran in the sideboard, yeah, it's fine, though it feels to me more of a like main deck card. Night of Soul's Betrayal is gonna be key in the new metagame, that's for sure. And the rest is pretty standard. Well, standard for modern. In terms of Junt mid-range, couple more decks. So this is your Lantern Control, which has a spicy one-off for that period with one of Tezzeret, but everybody's been saying that this deck is probably the best shell for top tier combo, and yeah, it does seem like it. It's a natural shell for it, I think. So what's probably gonna be changed is that the grid, the Gearpur Aether grid, will change. That was the red enchantment. So instead, your win condition would be the top tier duo, and then you would need to cut off one other card in here. Perhaps that will be Pixis, because yeah, PV been really happy with that card, but maybe that's the one you would cut for the second piece of the combo. And the question is actually how many copies of each of those cards for the combo you're gonna play in this deck. So that's unknown, but because you have Tezzeret as a kind of tutor permanence, then you have Steerings to find stuff. Though it only finds your colorless stuff, so it can find a sword, but it cannot find top tier foundry, so that's a big thing. And you have an Infernal tutor, but you go for your deck, you have your Academy Ruins to bounce things back once you mill them, and you just need some win condition when you're really establishing board control and lock down your opponent really with the bells and so on. So probably you don't really need that many copies, I think. So yeah, the deck's not gonna change a whole lot. You're just slicing one-offs of the new combo. And the last deck, which I'm actually excited about, apart from the usual decks, so that's Jeskai Ascendancy combo. You can play with Pyromancer Ascension in this deck, but you don't have to. What I like about this non-green version is that it's well, it does rely on Phase Teacher, but you can always side in your Wear Tears for Rest in Peace, and unlike the green versions, which run a lot of creatures that are still vulnerable to spot removal and mass removals, this one you can time better. And let's say they have Rest in Peace, but they want to sit back and counter spells, and they don't want to play it out. Then you actually maybe at some point accumulate enough cantrips, you go off with Ascendancy, you mill that, and in the same turn you actually win. So there is that. And also you can just sit back there, accumulate the critical mass. So unlike the normal Pyromancer Storm with Passant Flames, whenever you're just dirtling around and accumulating the critical mass, your critical mass is in the graveyard. So if they cast Rest in Peace, you're screwed. With Phase Teacher and Jeskai Ascendancy, you're not really screwed. Most decks won't have cards like this in their main deck, so you have nothing really to fear of game 1, really, except for playing well and just like getting there. After sideboard, you just side in those Wear Tears, side in maybe even Young Pyromancers and Monster Mentors as a backup, and then okay, they have Rest in Peace, so what if you drew your Mentors and Pyromancers? You just go off with them. If they have Rest in Peace and you feel like you better go off with Phase Teacher, you just like, yeah, Wear Tear, destroy that and go for it. So it's much more resilient than other decks like Passant Flame Storm, for example. I really like this deck because less Eldrazi means less Chalice of the Void, so this feels like a very cool deck. Few assumptions before I let you go is that we expect that control is going to be better. That means decks like Fish, Elves probably gonna fall off because of the control decks and mass removals, and unless in the Merfolks you put a bunch of what was it, the Counterspells main deck with Elves, yeah, Azuri with a bunch of mana regenerates your stuff, but they can play, I don't know, like Damnation of Wrath of God and stuff can't be regenerated and then they're screwed. So it's not always Verdict, especially if you think of Blue-White Tron, Blue-White Gifts, things like that. And yeah, what else is worse? So Living End is worse because of Graveyard Hate and Counterspells, so for two reasons. Reanimator is probably gonna be worse. Aggressive decks, tempo-ish decks with Counterspells is gonna be better. And yeah, also with Jeskai Flash decks, so yeah, I do like them for the reasons that it's a blue deck with interaction and also fast clocks. Instead of going Restoration Kiki, you could go with Geyser Saint Draft and just more burn, more tempo, more aggression, more pressure. So you could do that. There are some other things I wanted to say, but can't recall at this instance, so I'll leave them for the next episode. So yeah, cheers guys, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode describing few more classic and spicy decks for Modern. Bye.